Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your host, Brent Bilski, AKW, the 110 Soldiers. Today, I think the defending champs need the Greek Freak. That, to me, is the biggest story of the NBA draft that comes up this Wednesday. I'll tell you more and explain why in just a little bit. The NBA does not need to shorten the regular season. Don't even start that crap.
You better not. You better not.
I'll get into why in just a little bit as well. I have a game today I want to play called the Caitlin Clark Hater Game. This is something, as the internet trolls get stronger and stronger, I'm going to give you the best responses to give to them to either shut them up or just know that they're just saying a bunch of stupid shit. I want Shohei to pitch relief.
Do it! Just do it!
He has come back to pitch. He's the best show in baseball, and I'll explain why I want it and why the experts tell me why it can't happen, which is very disappointing. So lots to get into as always, but let's, of course, start off last night. The Oklahoma City Thunder are the NBA champion.
For the first time, the NBA champion resides in Oklahoma City.
And do you care? I mean, the Thunder rolled, and I don't even know if anyone noticed. I mean, did it feel like a championship to you? Did it not feel just like a good second-round series? Did the Thunder, who on paper look like, statistically one of the greatest teams we've ever seen? I mean, honestly, the Thunder on paper look like one of the greatest statistic teams of all time. Do they feel like a greatest team of all time, or did it feel like if Indy didn't have Hallie go down, that maybe this whole thing would have been a complete upset, and boy, we'd be talking about the Thunder in a whole different light. I can't be alone in this, right? SGA, just so you know, SGA had a flawless Game 7, and he made history on a list that is hard to get on. He is now the 9th ever in NBA history to win a scoring title, MVP, and Finals MVP in the same year. He joins Kareem, MJ, LeBron, Shaq, Kevin Durant, Kobe, Steph, and Wilt. And does he feel like it? Like, do you... Look, no one watched this NBA Finals. I tried to warn y'all, and boy, was I right. This was an average of 9.18 million viewers so far. That is what they've had up to Game 6 now. That is the lowest since they started doing the Nielsen ratings in 1988. It actually matches the baseball Rangers Diamondbacks a couple years ago, where baseball went, oh no, we got to do something. We need some stars. It's on that level of like nobody paid attention. And one of the interesting facts with that is that the interest didn't grow, which is unusual. Usually, even if you don't care about the two teams by Game 5 or 6, last couple years it's gone up either 25%, at least the last couple years by the time we hit Game 5 and Game 6. That didn't happen this year. And there's just something missing with this whole finals, the Thunder, SGA, nothing statistically, nothing on paper, but there was just something that wasn't there. And I mean, really, I think the Pacers, if I think of a team I'll remember more and have more of a reverence and kind of overall just nostalgia for, I think it's going to be the Indiana Pacers, who lost. They were so great all this playoff run. The comeback kids, the cardiac kids felt very NC State, multiple fourth quarter comebacks, whether it was Milwaukee series, the Cleveland series, the Knicks series. Then they move on, of course, to the finals where they had that amazing Game 1 finish. Down 15 in the fourth quarter, Tyrese Haliburton hits the amazing game winner, 0.3 seconds left. There were so many great things that happened along the way with the Indiana Pacers and Haliburton that I really think I'm going to miss them more or think about them more 10 years from now than the Oklahoma City Thunder, who were supposed to be one of the greatest teams we've ever seen. And Haliburton, man, God bless it. That just sucks that he went down. But boy, he was clutch. One of the greatest playoff runs. Carlisle said it. I completely agree with him that this was historically one of the best playoff runs that we've ever seen. Clutch shot after clutch shot with 5 seconds or under. He did that in all 4 series he played. First person to ever do that. The Pacers themselves, they were picked 17th at the start of the season to win the NBA Finals. That's the bottom half, just for people that can't do math. They were the first ever in the playoffs to have 8 different players score 200 points. They were plucky, they were tough, they were gritty, they were clutch. They seemed to be the only team in the NBA that played like they had nothing to lose. They truly played to me like a team that just played with house money and put their balls on the ground and said, you know what, we're going to figure it out as we go, but damn it, we're going to give you everything we got. And the Indiana Pacers gave us everything that they had. And boy, they were just that close. And then, of course, Haliburton went down, and that was just a heartbreaker. Couldn't have happened to a better guy in a sadder situation of trying to do the right thing, and he is out for a very long time. They have confirmed it was an Achilles tear. You saw in the video, look at the circle, that calf, when it pops like that, that is something very reminiscent if you've been watching the NBA. And all these Achilles injuries, 8 this last year, but that one specifically, very reminiscent of when Kevin Durant did it back in 2019. You see that pop, you know what time it is. Hallie did immediately too, banging on the floor, his dad. It was just a sad situation all the way around. 8 to 10 months at least. He's out for next year for any significant reason. So the Pacers, this is going to be kind of a fluke run. They really probably didn't deserve to be there in the first place if we're keeping it honest. And you knew at the moment you saw it that this guy tried to force his way through to pull the Willis Reed and rolled the dice, and it just went the wrong direction. So a lot of people, I know this is just natural. I get a lot of you are going to want to say things like, well, should he have played?
Simple question.
Should he have been allowed to play at all? The doctors did tell him, dude, this calf strain is a multiple-week injury. This is not something that is, if it wasn't the NBA Finals, we wouldn't even let you do it. But he said himself, if I can walk, I want to play. If I can walk, I want to play. Be careful what you wish for, because he really did play till he couldn't walk. But after his miraculous Game 6 surprise comeback, and they pull it off and push it to 7, Hallie's historic clutch playoff run, he even said after, I'm stiff, I'm sore, but I want to give it a go. I just don't want to play Captain Hindsight here.
Captain Hindsight, thank God you've come.
I think a lot of us need to make sure. Let's not all just go back now, 2020 vision in hindsight, and pretend like we knew this was going to happen. Of course, there seemed to be a history here that most likely proved it was going to happen. Matter of fact, weird fact, did you know that he is now the 3rd Eastern Conference star point guard this year wearing the jersey number 0 to having a major Achilles injury? I'll repeat that. The number 0 in the Eastern Conference not led to 1, not 2, 3 Achilles injuries between Damian Lillard and Haliburton and Jason Tatum, which is just such an odd stat.
There's something weird going on here.
But I want to go back to as far as playing. Looking, hindsight 2020, I can't blame him, because he started off great. It was a feel-good story up to that moment. Things can happen at any point. It was a huge risk. Again, doctors did say, dude, this is a multi-week injury. You look at other Achilles injuries that happen, it's because of strained calves. He knew what he was getting into, but he said himself, if I can walk, I want to play. And after his miraculous run, I do not blame him. He tried to do the Willis Reed thing, and like they say in The Sandlot, man, heroes get remembered, but a legend never dies. The Pacers really didn't seem like they were supposed to be there in the first place. This guy had a run that we really didn't think he was going to have. All the things were lining up to hopefully pull that miracle show up half leg to be able to pull it off. He wasn't able to do it, but I do not blame him. I do not blame the Pacers organization. Let's try not to be, again, Captain Hindsight and look back and go, oh, they shouldn't have done this. They shouldn't have done that. It's always easy to do it after you know what happened. I still want to say for him, he tried to do a legendary thing, the Willis Reed, where if he would have pulled it off and they would have won, it would have been one of the greatest upsets and, again, one of the greatest playoff runs the NBA has ever seen. It didn't work out that way. He's out for all next year. It's just a sad situation for Hallie, sad for the Pacers. But he was the Pacers. What were they going to do without Haliburton? You saw in the second half of Game 7 what they could do without Haliburton. They were dog crap. They were not able to get anything going. He was 45% of the offense for the playoffs. The Pacers' offensive rating dropped 19 points without him. He had the most clutch shots in the playoff since Michael Jordan on The Last Dance. He had 9.8 assists. He led the offense. He ran the offense. He was the offense. He tried his best. It didn't work out, and I feel really bad for him. On the other side, though, like I said, for the Thunder, we should be discussing the Thunder as one of the greatest teams in history in every stat. And I'm not convinced, and I don't think the world's convinced. I think a lot of us look at the Thunder and just go, OKC, Thunder fans, I'm sure y'all believe you have the next big dynasty. I think you guys really feel that this is a dominant team, and where do we rank amongst the all-times? It's like all-time. Where do you rank amongst the last 7 championships who only got 1 title? Dynasty, I just don't feel it. I don't see it. But there's nothing to argue that they shouldn't be. 68 wins. Don't forget, 68 wins this year. That was the 4th most all time. They had the largest point differential in the regular season of all time. That was a 50-year record. They won 84 games this season. That ties the 3rd most and the most since the 1996-1997 Chicago Bulls. SGA, once again, Head of the Snake MVP, young, amazing, had an amazing finals, won the scoring title, MVP and finals MVP, the 9th only ever to do it, put in on an elite list. He was the first to win the MVP and the title in the same year since Steph in 2015, which started the Warriors franchise. So I'm sure if you're the Thunder fans, you're looking at that saying, well, it's time for us to have our new dynasty. I mean, look, we only have an average age of 25.6. We have the second youngest team ever in the finals since 1976 Portland. That was 48 years ago. And I look at you, and I think the rest of us look at you, and we just, I don't know. The Thunder roll, it doesn't have any, I don't believe it. I still don't believe it. And I think a big part of it, too, let's keep it a buck. You barely won, and you walked over a lot of dead bodies to do it. Thunder fans, are you at least going to admit this much? Because the rest of us are going to bring it up. Let's take an honest look at why you were able to get it done. I mean, really, health and youth, you were the last one standing.
There can be only one.
Honestly, you walked over the rest of the dead bodies. There were so many injuries this year, and if you don't believe me, or in case you have a bad memory, let's go back and look at how you guys pulled off the finals this year. First round, you beat Memphis. That's great, but John Morant was hurt with a hip injury, and they were only there because they beat the Dallas Mavericks, who were only there because Kyrie Irving had tore his ACL and Anthony Davis was hurt. You go on to beat the Nuggets barely in 7, and that was 2 weeks after they had fired both their head coach and general manager, and they were in complete disarray. Aaron Gordon, by Game 6, had a hamstring pull. MPJ had a shoulder injury, and Jokic played, but he had started having back issues. Then you beat a young Minnesota who had Anthony Edwards, but he had rolled his ankle multiple times throughout the weeks of that playoffs, and he wasn't 100%. And let's keep it real, they're only there because Golden State wasn't able to get past Minnesota because Steph was out after game 1 with a quad injury, and then just a game later, Jimmy Butler gets a bruised back, and he wasn't able to be 100%. And then you finally go on to beat Indiana, again, barely in a game 7, and if Hallie was there, I don't know if it goes that way. And, of course, he had the game 5 calf strain, and he also, of course, missed game 7 because of his Achilles tear. And Indiana was only there because the Cavs had Donovan Mitchell with an ankle injury and Garland, who needed toe surgery, not healthy. Then Boston had a Tatum Achilles injury, and then Jaylen Brown, we found out after the season for the last month, needed knee surgery. The Bucks weren't able to put on a run because Damian Lillard tore his Achilles. So to review, Memphis was hurt. Nuggets were hurt. Minnesota was hurt. They were only there because Golden State was hurt. You beat Indy barely, and that's only after they got hurt, and they only were there because the Cavs were hurt, the Boston Celtics were hurt, and the Milwaukee Bucks were hurt. So yes, you were the last one standing, and you have a great record, but I think a lot of us look and go, dude, you walked over the dead bodies.
They're all dead.
In the end, there can be only one.
You were able to pull it off, but man, that's a lot of things to happen, and for you to still barely pull it off, I think is why we look at you and go, just like Boston last year, or any of the champions in the last 7 years before it, of like, we're not feeling dynasty yet. You're going to have to prove it. You're going to have to prove it because that was a lot of injuries and that was a lot of fluky things that had to happen in order for you to even pull this thing off. And by the way, I want to throw this in here. Do not, and I mean do not, try to feed me that we need to shorten the regular season.
That's dopey talk. That's dopey dum-dum.
I don't want to hear it. I don't even want to talk about it. You do not need to shorten the regular season. This one always comes up after an injury-plagued season in the NBA discussions, and it's a bad idea. You do not need to shorten the regular season. You need to shorten the first round of the playoffs.
Whoa, the playoffs.
Because now with that play-in tournament, you look at what happens, man, these last 2 to 3 weeks of the regular season are basically the first round. Everybody is trying to get at least to that 6th spot. 7th through 10th is a freaking nightmare. So the last 2 to 3 weeks of the regular season, because of the play-in, which is a good idea, has created this playoff-like environment to where I think the first round is really not even... It's not that exciting, and a lot of the times it really isn't even necessary. You could throw in, of course, Miami, who went on that playoff run. But I still think even then a 5-game series would be enough to give us everything combined with the end of the season to give you a first-round playoff feel where players are already kind of playing at playoff intensity. But if the goal is to improve player health, elevate postseason quality, protect superstars when the stakes are the highest, shorten the first round, not the regular season. At the end of this playoff run, God, multiple teams, including my Golden State Warriors, Warriors. And I talked about this, and I showed you the schedule. Golden State went through absolute hell in the last 10 games of their playoff run, and it was very easy to figure out why Steph Curry got hurt. From April 26th to May 14th, they had to play every other day for 19 days straight. They had to play 10 playoff games in 19 days, and that's with travel, national TV windows, minimal recovery time. The first round of the playoffs is the problem. Let's go back from the best of 7. Let's move it back to 5 like we did all the way back in 2003, because even the outcomes are really kind of decided more in the play-in. The top 2 seeds win over 80% of the first-round series. 3 of the 4 first-round series in the East were decided in 5 games or less. This will allow for extra rest days in the actual important rounds and the important times, so these teams like Boston, who got somebody, of course, hurt with Tatum, Warriors, and others, don't have to play game after game after game, back-to-back-to-back at the most meaningful time of the season. This gives you what you needed more than a shortened regular season, which screws up every record and causes all sorts of freaking problems. This way, the stars get a chance to rest at their most important time when they're putting out their most effort. That is when we should do it. You do not need to change the regular season. I would be all for going back to a 5-game series in the first round. That is a good way to hopefully try to alleviate some of these injuries and some of the stress, because nobody in the playoffs in the most important rounds should have to play 10 games in 19 days. 10 games in 19 days is bananas. That's where you should fix it. Let the stars shine when it matters most. Keep the regular season the way it is. Give them a smarter schedule towards the end. And you can do that by adding less games in the first round, where a lot of times it's already decided by the time the play-in comes. Good. Moving on. NBA draft. Got to talk about this. I think the Oklahoma City Thunder, going back to not being convinced and not really being sure if this is a team that I can believe in, is a dynasty. You guys, more than anyone, need to go into the Giannis sweepstakes. This is going to be the most interesting part of the NBA draft and the most interesting story, now that we know that Dallas got the number 1 pick, and they are definitely taking Cooper Flagg, which I've discussed in previous shows. But the NBA draft is Wednesday. We should be excited.
Good, great, grand, wonderful.
But this is going to be the big part of it, is that I think Giannis, more than any other year, is ripe for a change, and I'm doubling down on this. And now that the Durant trade domino fell, that makes me feel even more right in the prediction I'm about to make here and who should actually make the move. In case you missed it, you fell asleep the last few days, Durant now a Houston Rocket.
Rockets! Rockets! It's always about the Rockets! It's always about the Rockets.
It's a big deal. The 36-year-old getting traded in that blockbuster in a couple ways, because A, I don't know if it actually made Houston better. I did say you guys need another scorer. I still think you could have hopefully pulled it off if you would have been more patient and not given away Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, and your number 10 pick, and 5 second-round picks, which they ended up giving up. Jalen Green, even with attitude issues, to me, is somebody that is a very talented guy, and Dylan Brooks, as much as I hate him, really fit into the Rockets' identity. You really don't have any guard depth now at all. You still, of course, got Amen and Şengün and some other guys there along to now go with Kevin Durant and a scoring threat that you much needed, but a lot of your identity was lost. I'm very curious, and I'm kind of at odds with Vegas, who thought that this pushed them all the way up to like number 2 or 3 to win the Western Conference next year. But the bigger point of this also is that it takes the other big trade piece off the market besides Giannis Antetokounmpo, who I think is prime for the picking. So this now takes Houston out of that race there of a very small market, and it sets a market price for a rebuilding team. So like I said, the Bucks, this is something you're going to have to accept. I don't give a damn what the organization or Giannis says. I know everything they're saying. Don't try to repeat it. Don't yell at the screen. I know damn good and well they have said openly, oh, no, Giannis is staying. We wouldn't let anything happen. That's crazy. Giannis, of course, is repeating the company line. Yes, I want to stay. I want to give him a chance. It's time to let Giannis go. Both Giannis and the Bucks need this. It's the only option left. When Damian Lillard tore his Achilles, your run with Giannis was done, and you need to rebuild the cupboard. So I do not believe the reports at all who tell me that they aren't thinking about it, and Giannis isn't thinking about it, and that it shouldn't be a good idea. And Bucks fans, if you're mad at me, if you need reasons why, I'll give you 3. Let's start off with the first fact, that the Bucks were bounced from the first round the last 3 years straight. And you know damn good and well Giannis has said openly over and over and over, I want to play for a winner. Number 2, Giannis can opt out of his contract in just 2 more seasons, where you can get absolutely nothing in return for letting the Greek Freak say goodbye. 3, and this is the most important one, your cupboard is bare. There's no chess moves left. There's nothing left to do. You've tried and you put all your chips in, and God bless you for doing it. But when Damian went down, your hopes went down. You have now traded your first-round pick or swap rights for the next 6 years. You do not control your first-round pick the next 6 years. You do not have any second-round selections in the next 6 years. Lillard is 35, hurt for at least the next season, and is owed $113 million over the next 2. The biggest mock trades I could find to quote-unquote improve your team and keep Giannis in Milwaukee would be a name like a Porzingis or a Bradley Beal or a Cam Johnson, and it would still cost you either Kuzma or even finding someone dumb enough to take an injured Damian Lillard at 35 who is probably looking towards retirement. But, I mean, Porzingis, Beal, and Johnson it's not just elevating you up in the Eastern Conference. That's not going, oh my God, now, the Bucks got Giannis and Cam Johnson. Watch out, Oklahoma City Thunder. Watch out, all the revamped teams next season. That's not enough. If you let Giannis go, it not just refills Giannis's tank, it refills the Bucks cupboard. You guys have no picks left. This is a chance for you to truly rebuild. He's only 30 years old. He is a game-changing type player. I get having to let him leave you after this many seasons and say goodbye is tough, but for the rest of the NBA and one team specifically, this is a former Finals MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved, 9-time All-Star. Just last season, he was third in MVP voting. He had one of the best years he's had in a long time, 30.4 points, 11.9 rebounds, 6.5 assists on 60% field goal shooting. In the playoffs, he was even better, even though they lost, which is even more apropos in making my point. He averaged 33, 15, 4, and 6.5 this year in the playoffs, and they still got ousted in 5. You don't have enough left. You don't have anything in the cupboard to make any rooms left. When Damian down, your hopes went down. You need to rebuild, forget about the next few years, and the best way to do it is to move him now when there are so many teams so loaded with picks. It is a perfect opportunity to get this done. And I will re-explain one more time, Oklahoma City Thunder is the one that needs to do it. Oklahoma City Thunder, if you want your chance, defending champs at a dynasty, you put your chips in and you go get Giannis now. And I know it's not the Sam Presti way, but if nothing else, at least remember the words I'm about to tell you. The most dangerous phrase in language is we've always done it this way.
I'm dug in, and I'll never change.
The most dangerous phrase in language is that we've always done it this way. Do not be beholden to the way that you're doing things just because it works. Look at the last 7 years, 7 championships, last 7 years. Do not be like the Bucks. Don't be like the Nuggets. Don't be like these other small markets who thought they were going to be able to build into a dynasty. Do you want a dynasty? Can't do it with one guy. Can't do it with one MVP. You got to have multiple stars to lean on if you're trying to build the dynasty. I do not think that guys like Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren, who will get better, will ever be anything close to a second option like a Giannis Antetokounmpo. I know you look great on paper. I know you have an average age of 25.6. I know SGA is the MVP. I know you have 68 wins. I know that you have 15 first-round picks over the next 7 seasons. But the fact is, I'll repeat it, you got help. Look and be honest at what you did. This was not an impressive run. Memphis was hurt. Denver was hurt. Minnesota was hurt. Indy was hurt. I know it's not the Sam Presti way. You guys build internally. We build through the draft. We stockpile picks. We make the right decisions. We don't rush out and go for big free agents. There's always a chance to be innovative or new in the way that you do things. Do not just be beholden to we've always done it a certain way. You need another top guy. I saw it versus Indy. The rest of us saw it versus Indy. That was really the best team that you played, and that was a plucky underdog, and you almost lost to them in 7. Any good, healthy, deep team next year with a deep bench can continue to give you problems because you do not have a reliable second option scorer. SGA had to have like a flawless Game 7. He had to have like a flawless Game 7. And outside of him, do you know that nobody else scored more than 20? No one else scored more than 20 in that Game 7 that you probably 50-50 lose if Haliburton doesn't go down. Chet Holmgren disappeared for multiple times during this finals run, and he has not shown himself to be a true second. You need a guy who can just go get you a bucket down low. That's not an SGA, not a smaller guy. This is something that just fits in so many different ways, not to mention SGA's 34% usage rate in the playoffs and the finals. You're too dependent on one head of the snake. Do not be like the Bucks. Do not be like the Nuggets, who thought, oh, we got our main guy, and we don't have to pay too much, and we got a nice little roster here, and let's just try to push and go for a dynasty. If you want a dynasty, you need more than one star. And the most important part of this, and this is the scary part for the other teams that are in the running for the Giannis sweepstakes, is that they're the only team in OKC, of about 5, I would say, that can offer the most and still lose nothing. Here's the craziest part about this. I looked at the trade machine. Give you an idea of how many picks they have. Thanks to Hartenstein's crazy-ass contract, you can match money basically for Giannis, so this trade would work. I can offer Milwaukee 5 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks, possibly more, Hartenstein and say like a Wiggins just to make the money work, and the Oklahoma City Thunder would still have a first and a second-round pick every year for the next 6 years, including multiple seconds at the end of that 6-year one. So I'm going to repeat all that. Even with giving away 5 first-round picks, a couple decent players, and 3 to 4 second-round picks, the Oklahoma City Thunder have been so stockpiled with picks that they would still have a first and a second every year for the next 6 seasons and multiple second-round picks over the last few of those. That is how many picks the OKC Thunder have. There's an opportunity to at least make the offer to go, dude, I don't know if it's going to work, but we'll at least throw it out there. Hey, you need to get rid of Giannis. We need another star. We need a secondary scorer. You guys could use a lot of draft picks. We're the one team that has a lot of them and can give it to you without losing any major stars.
I like that.
If you put SGA, Jalen, Chet, Giannis with that bench of like Caruso and say like a Dort or somebody at 2 guard, not to mention still getting on average 3 picks a year. That is your chance at a dynasty. That is your opportunity to break this 7-year record of these mediocre teams who are just a lot of times the healthiest or last one standing. If you want to actually put yourself in a whole nother thing and say this is a chance to roll into like all-time great, give SGA his opportunity. Go get Giannis right now. You're the only ones that can do this and not lose major pieces. San Antonio Spurs could do it, but they're young. I don't think that would really push them into a championship contender, and Giannis knows that. Houston, of course, is out now. There's other teams like Toronto and Detroit, and the Warriors keep throwing their names in there. They're the same thing as Milwaukee. You don't got enough left in the cupboard. We've made so many moves out there in Golden State. You have to get rid of, in the mock trade I saw, Draymond Green, Pajimski, Kuminga, TJD, plus having picks given away. They don't have the ability to do it. The Oklahoma City Thunder not only have the opportunity to do it, they have the opportunity to do it and not lose any major draft pick status at all, and the Bucks have a chance to rebuild their cupboard. This is the smartest thing I've said in a long time, and it probably won't happen because apparently Sam Presti is completely against it, but I'm right and they're wrong, and if you're Thunder fans, you should push for this or pray for it because it would change you and put you in that actual elevation of, okay, 3-4 titles. Very possible. Only 30 years old. Unbelievable game-changing player. Second option you need for SGA. That would put the Oklahoma City Thunder to an entire new light. Moving on completely. I want to talk about my girl, Caitlin, and I want to play a game. This is a game I'm going to call What to Say to Caitlin Haters. What to say to Caitlin haters as they are getting louder and louder and louder, and you know you're making waves when they start throwing stones, and calm waters never make legends. But this is something I put together because as you see more and more of the same repetitive, stupid, pointless, internet hateful comments,
I hate.
can't seem to wrap their head around that this girl is the next big thing in women's basketball and currently in sports. And I thought about this before I get into the game. Try to wrap your head around this if you are one of the many Caitlin Clark haters out there who are just saying dumb things. This is the worst that Caitlin Clark will ever be. Let that sink in. Let it sink in that barring injury, this is the worst that you'll ever see Caitlin Clark be. Unless injury derails her, she is actually at her floor. And if this is the floor, imagine the ceiling. Caitlin Clark is on pace to repeat being the only woman ever to be top 10 in scoring while number 1 in assists. She's already got the most career games of 25 points and 10 assists in the game. She did it in 102 less games than the last girl, Sabrina Ionescu. She has the most assists ever in a WNBA season, not just for rookies. WNBA single game assist record. She owns that too with 19. She is already 3rd in WNBA history all time in triple doubles and was the fastest to ever get there. She is one of only 3 players to finish top 20 20 in all 5 major categories: points, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals. This year, she is top 10 again in points at 19.8 and is still number 1 in assists per game at 8.7. She is top 10 in rebounds for guard, and if she didn't have injuries, she would be clearly on pace and will one day break Sabrina's three-pointers made in a single season. And this is with her off to an inconsistent start this year. She's had the quad strain. She's had the last couple games. She's some trouble shooting there. This is her at her worst, and she's making history. This is the baseline. This is the bottom floor, and she hasn't even played 50 games yet in the WNBA. So if Diana Taurasi played 565 games, that means that Caitlin Clark has only played about 8 to 9% of her total career. And look at the history that she's already made, and she's still learning. She's a baby. She just got started. She just took her first steps, and she's already made all-time history. If this is the floor, imagine the ceiling. This is why we get so hyped about this girl, because you look at the opportunities and you look at her and go, Jesus, dude, this is something else. This is generational. This is different. And for some reason, y'all got to stick up your ass about it. And I don't quite understand, other than, as always, it's other things. I really do think with a lot of Caitlin hate, it comes from other places. It comes from other reasons. It's just a negative person in general. It's just hard to understand why people have an issue with her, other than a few, which now we will get into. So like I said, it's game time.
I want to play a game.
This is called the Caitlin Clark Hater Game. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 5 different things that you hear, the most common about Caitlin Clark that are hateful. 5 most hateful comments and what you can say in response. Let's start off with the first one. You know, she's really not that great of a shooter.
Stupid. You're stupid.
You know, she's really not that great of a shooter. Look at people like Paige Beckers. You know, she has a better three-point percentage than she does.
I am a dumb
This is one of the easiest ones to take down, because people that try to equate simply three-point percentage into what makes somebody the best shooter in either the NBA or the WNBA clearly doesn't know shit, and they're just kind of talking out their ass. So Paige Beckers has a better three-point percentage. Cool. She averages 3 times less attempts from 3 per game than Caitlin Clark does, 9 to 3. And oh, by the way, she's not nearly as guarded or double-teamed as Caitlin is. Caitlin still shoots 34% on 8.9 attempts per game. That is so elite. And when you also factor in, she shoots from a longer average distance on her three-pointers than even Damian Lillard, Trae Young, or Steph Curry in the NBA, and still shoots 3 times as many, and still shoots 34%, many of them off the dribble, many of them deep, many of them contested. It just gives you an idea of why we go, dude, really? Like, that's got to be one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. You just look at her counterpart, Steph Curry. I always call her Steph Curry in a ponytail. Where was Steph Curry last year? This is always a good litmus test. Where was Steph Curry ranked in three-point percentage? Just three-point percentage. Where was Steph Curry ranked in the NBA? Tell you. 44th. 39.7. He was ranked, if you go by just that stat, the 44th best shooter in the NBA. Have to factor in, he averaged 11.2 attempts per game. Meanwhile, other guys at the top of the list include names like Taurean Prince, Ty Jerome. Does anyone have the balls to tell me that they are clearly better shooters than Steph Curry because they have a higher three-point percentage and maybe just don't take as many and wait till they're wide open, and it's an entirely different situation? So it's just so stupid to even try to throw that together. That's a bad example. That's a bad take. That's the easiest one to respond to. It's just they go three-point percentage to three-point percentage. Just bring up Steph Curry and like, dude, greatest shooter the world's ever seen. Last year was 44th because he has to take almost 12 a game, because he's always contested, because he's double-teamed, because he has to shoot from deep, because he's under pressure. There's more than just that one simple stat to prove if somebody's a great shooter or not. That was the easiest one, like I said, to respond to. Number 2 on things to say to Caitlin haters. She's not a winner. Not a winner. No rings. No championship rings, unlike Angel or Paige. She's not a champion, therefore she is not one of the best out there. And the easiest thing I could say to that quickly is that, man, it's easy to run when you got a relay team. Try sprinting with a backpack. It's a whole different world, man. Caitlin Clark took Iowa to the national championships twice without any other top 25 recruits. Caitlin Clark took little-ass Iowa, who hadn't seen even a Final Four since the 80s, to back-to-back national championship games without any other top 25 players. You want to bring up Angel Reese and LSU? Fine. Did you know that they had at least 4 to 5 five-star recruits every single season that Angel was on LSU. You want to talk about Paige Beckers in UConn and really prove how stupid you are? Go look at the powerhouse that has been UConn forever and just the slew of 4 and 5 stars that they get every single year. Matter of fact, this last year when Paige won, she didn't just get a bunch of 4 and 5 star recruits. They got the Ivy League Player of the Year just for fun, Chen, to be thrown over. The other 2 girls who actually led the team in scoring those last couple games in their championship run at UConn were Fudd and Strong. They were the number 1 overall recruits the last 2 years. So they don't get just a little bit of the best. They are truly, it's a joke. It's ridiculous. So putting UConn and bringing up anyone who won a national title as that's why they're individually better than somebody else because they didn't is the equivalent of saying like Will Purdue has rings and Charles Barkley doesn't. Like it's such a dumb example to bring up, but people will do it and people will say it. So the easiest thing to know is that Iowa was able to get to back-to-back twice without having any top 25 recruits at all, and Angel would have 4 to 5 every single year, and UConn had so many. Paige didn't even have to be the leading scorer in the last couple games in order for them to easily win the championship. That is the same token as trying to say that like Steph Curry and Larry Bird ain't shit either because they took small schools almost to the title and weren't able to get it done. That's a dumb one. That's an easy one to respond to. Third one. Now we're getting closer. This is actually things that if people want to hate on Caitlin, this is actually a true one. She whines too much. She bitches too much about fouls, and she sometimes is bratty and has a bad attitude. This is actually a fair assessment and is probably the truest one yet. To the point I remember even her own dad was yelling at her from the stands in college one time and just went, stop. Like, shut up. Stop complaining. Play the game. This is something she definitely needs to work on is the whining and the technical fouls. But in her defense, I will say, and to anyone else who says it, dude, you try getting your ass kicked every night just for the crime of showing up. You try getting your ass kicked every night just for the crime of showing up. Caitlin Clark never starts anything, but boy, every single game she goes to, I understand she's emotional. The league has physically tested her along with their last couple years in college in a way that other than maybe Steph Curry, Houston, you just don't see on a day-to-day basis. People that don't remember, she has now had the most flagrant or technical fouls drawn in the last 2 seasons. In 2024, they kicked her ass so many times. She drew 17% of all flagrant fouls by herself. Everyone just took whacks and hacks and eye pokes and pushes, and you're seeing it again this year where they're just knocking her down and poking her and grabbing her, and it's just so out of pocket and so unnecessary some nights and so excessive that multiple people have already been fined for targeting her. There's, of course, a lot of people brought up, I think there's a lot of jealousy, a lot of envy, a lot of anger, and they don't know how to handle themselves. A lot of emotionally immature WNBA girls who just beat the crap out of this poor girl. And thank God that we have Sophie Cunningham and others finally sticking up for her. But man, as I understand she complains too much, part of me also goes, but dude, she's also going through some trials and tribulations that short of when I remember Steph Curry against the Rockets, and that was really only against the Rockets, I don't see anybody on the male or female side get their ass kicked the way Caitlin Clark does. So she does need to chill out on the bitching and the moaning. Like I said, even her own dad at one point had to scream at her from the stands to quit your whining, quit your bitching. But even Asia Wilson said, and she's definitely Team Paige over Team Caitlin. Asia Wilson even once said nobody deserves that treatment, but she's still standing. I'm not saying it's right that she does it, but there is at least an excuse to go, dude, she draws 17%, and I think still this year, like 15% of all the flagrant fouls that are committed in the entire WNBA. Don't tell me she doesn't have a bullseye on her back. Number 4. This is always an interesting one, and this one might ruffle feathers. It's all white privilege. It's all because she's a white girl.
It's all right, because it's all white.
You know the only reason that Caitlin is popular and the reason you root for her is because she's a white girl. And this doesn't just show that you don't know your history, but I'll warn people that if you respond to this one, just know this. You're not arguing with logic. You're arguing with scar tissue.
I'm in a glass case of emotion.
It's an entirely different thing. You're arguing with scar tissue and trauma and things that they're bringing in from other places, so it's hard to get anybody to really listen. If they have a closed mind on this, it's going to be hard to get them to understand. But if you want to know at least what to respond, you can at least go with, you clearly don't know the history of the WNBA. Because I've repeated this, and I'll say it one more time, the WNBA is not the NBA. They have had white stars going all the way back to the beginning when nobody was watching. Rebecca Lobo, Sue Bird, now Brianna Stewart. We had Becky Hammond, girls like Deladon, Tyrese. It is not the National Basketball Association where every once in a while you'll see a plucky TJ McConnell or some foreign guy or Larry Bird back to the 80s where every now and again a white player is at least competitive in the league the way that it is. In the WNBA, there has been goats and stars and the heads of the snakes and the best players in the league over and over and over that have led, and no one gave a crap and nobody watched. So to simply put it on that is not just a little bit silly and, again, showing scar tissue or trauma. It's ignorant to the actual history. And it's even more frustrating for poor Caitlyn because all she's ever done, if asked about it, has said nothing but the right things of what y'all want to hear. And it's never enough. You still complain. You say she doesn't do it. But, I mean, God, Time Magazine seems like a pretty big place to come out and say, quote, I know my race gives me visibility. The WNBA was built on the backs of black players. We must highlight that and invest in those players. She's also said other things multiple other times. Yet somehow, they'll, again, this is why it's scar tissue. They'll come out and try to say she doesn't ever speak out publicly. Time Magazine? Time Magazine is not... Okay. But it's just, there's more to it, and if you want to be dismissive, be dismissive. I can't tell you how to not have an open mind. But even Chine Agumuke said, dude, it's not with Caitlyn just race. It's timing. It's branding. It's digital synergy. It's doing things, the logo threes, the excitement. You watch her versus other players. She just plays different. It's like Steph Curry. There's just a level of excitement that comes with her. Black, white, purple, brown, whatever you want to call it. And it's very Tiger Woods. It's very Tiger Woods. I've always loved that comparison because Tiger Woods, for people that don't remember or don't know your history as well in golf, was not the first black golfer. He was the most dominant. He's the one who was generational. He's the one who brought in a whole nother culture and a whole nother fan base to golf in a way that we've never seen, the way Caitlyn does with the WNBA. But he was not the first person of color to play golf. You had names like Charlie Sifford, there was Lee Elder, Calvin Peete. There was other golfers before Tiger, but they didn't move the needle. Same thing in the WNBA. They didn't just have a few. They had a bunch. I'll give you that one more time. Sue Bird, Brianna Stewart, Becky Hammond, Deladon, Tyrese, stars. Didn't move the needle. Nobody cared. To try to say it's all just a white thing with Caitlyn Clark is either just your scar tissue or you're dismissive or you just don't know your history.
It's all right, because it's all white.
Not your fault. A lot of things to remember and know in life. This is just one of the things that's included. This last one more for the Caitlyn game. What is the most hateful things they say? The number 5 that we need to learn to respond to. Too many turnovers, and she's not good on defense. And fair enough. Fair enough. This is the closest I kind of listed it to where they got fairer and fairer, that there's too many turnovers with Caitlyn Clark, and she is still not an elite defender on that side of the ball. But I'll also say it's kind of like ignoring everything she brings to the table because you focus on just the one chair that's missing. Like, yes, is she not the best defender in the WNBA? Sure. Does she commit too many turnovers? Sure. But this is like ignoring everything else that she brings to the table and just pointing at the one chair that is missing. She does average 5.4 turnovers per game. That is way too high. And once again, number 1 in the WNBA. But she also averages 8.7 assists. Also number 1 in the WNBA. She is also, again, top 10 in scoring, first ever to do that, and is number 1 in points created for a team offensively when you combine points and assists. That is the second year she is in that lead, and she is also in the same category as some of the other great offensive players who are given a high usage rate that have to respond and do a lot of things and are very responsible for their entire offense. Names like Diana Taurasi, LeBron James, Luka Doncic on the Mavericks, they all had very high turnover rates. Matter of fact, did you know that LeBron James and Diana Taurasi are the all-time leaders in turnovers for both the NBA and the WNBA? And I've never once heard anybody say, oh, they suck. They have too many turnovers. You're talking about two arguable goats of their sport. They are the leaders in it because to make an omelet, sometimes you got to break some eggs. When you're creating 40 to 50% of an offense, which these people are responsible for doing, you're going to have to force some things. You're going to have to make some moves. She does make bad decisions. It is so crazy how much she mirrors Steph Curry. She has the same problems of bad turnovers at bad times. She does need to fix it, but I do not think that it offsets in any way the unbelievable impact she has on the offensive end. Same thing with her defense. If her defense was so bad, explain to me why they have anywhere from a 6 to a 10 offensive net rating every time she's on the court, which means every time she's on the court, they beat their opponents by at least 6 to 10 points and go into the negative when she's off. She was such a just pure defensive liability to the point it was able to be argued that it offset the other direction. You wouldn't be able to win almost every game that she's in the minutes that she plays. So it's true, too many. Defense could use some work. Same thing with Steph Young. But still, I do not think that it offsets everything that she does in the other direction, and you can't ignore everything that she brings to the table and focus on just the one chair missing. So there you go. That was the encapsulation. That was my top 5. And like I said, some of these things, it's almost not, I don't know if you even want to go and argue on the internet. I mean, the fact is you can't wake someone up pretending to be asleep. If they don't want to like Caitlyn, they're not going to like Caitlyn. Again, there's a lot of other things that are leaning into this, but in case you wanted it, I gave it to you. There you go. Moving on. Last thing. Got to talk about this real quick because we are going to have to move on to baseball here at some point. I want to talk about the man. I got to talk about the show. My favorite thing in baseball. Got to talk about my man Shohei Ohtani, who truly is, pun intended, the best show in MLB and arguably all of sports, going along with Caitlin Clark. And I still want more from him. I still think he could even bring more eyeballs into a sport that is having a resurgence. And I want to throw out an idea because now he is pitching. I want him in relief.
Do it! Just do it!
I want him as the ninth inning samurai. And apparently MLB and coaches and everybody else doesn't agree with me. And if you're like one of the other people like me who's looked at this and said, dude, why don't they? Why don't they? Why, if you need to rest his arm and you need to utilize him in just certain points, why don't you put him in relief when that's the end of the movie? That's when the finale comes, and that's when you need your best pitching is in relief and in the ninth. And if he's only pitching an inning at a time, why not let him close just like he did against Mike Trout? If y'all remember the World Baseball Classic, I still remember. I didn't watch the World Baseball Classic. I didn't give a crap about the World Baseball Classic. The one thing I remember is the highlight they showed me of when Trout and Ohtani were teammates, and Ohtani came in relief at the very end to represent his country against our country, our best against their best, and he struck Trout's ass out, and the whole place went nuts, and it really kind of solidified Show as this legendary thing. Why don't we bring that into baseball, and why don't we bring that to LA, who has a struggling relief pitcher? Well, there's a lot of reasons. So, y'all know the offensive stuff with Shohei. I think most people, if you watch baseball, know. First ever in the 50-50 club, which is bananas. 54 home runs, 59 stolen bases. Just last year, he had a game where he went 6 for 6 hitting, hit 3 home runs, 2 stolen base, and 10 RBIs, which is absolutely insane. He's the only person ever to start as an all-star game as a pitcher and a hitter. He is arguably the greatest baseball player already the world has ever seen and done, and has brought so many new things to the Major League Baseball eyeballs, fan bases, the entire thing. Dodgers coming off the World Series. But I want him to close, and the world's telling me no. And one of the first things I didn't know that we all should know, in case you are like me and confused as to why not, there's a thing they actually instituted called the Ohtani rule. The Ohtani rule is the first thing that we have to note as to why you will probably not see him in relief really in any situation that going forward can be considered reasonable, because it's easier to let him open than closed thanks to his own rule. In 2022, MLB had to enter the Shohei Ohtani rule, which allows a player as a starting pitcher and a designated hitter to stay in the lineup as a designated hitter after being removed as a pitcher. So if you start the game as a pitcher thanks to his rule, you can still be a DH. That does not work if you come in relief. It only works if Shohei is a starter, not a reliever. So that's one of the biggest problems, but he did come back and pitch after 21 months, and his second Tommy John surgery. The $700 million man has pitched twice now, and he's not just throwing. The dude is throwing gas. June 16th versus the rivals Padres for a first outing. Didn't do bad. 1 inning pitch, 2 hits, 1 run, but his fastball was clocking at 102 in a 28-pitch inning, where, by the way, he also recorded an RBI double and a run-scoring single. But even he said, it was my first game. I was feeling good physically, but I wasn't quite happy, and I still want to pitch once a week. So this just last week here against the Nationals, in his just second game already in 1 inning pitched, 0 hits, 0 runs, 2 strikeouts. His velocity remained at 98 to 99 miles an hour, and his command on all of his multiple pitches that he has, including like his splitter and cutter, were already showing an improvement. He did have a couple wild pitches, but overall, in just his second game back in 21 months, he was an absolute animal on the mound for that inning, striking out 2. And it just shows you that this guy is truly a unicorn. He's just different. He's already one of the best hitters in baseball. Y'all might forget he was like 4th in the Cy Young Award just a couple years ago before he got hurt for pitching. And even the experts, don't take my word for it. People that are truly in the sport. Dave Roberts, the manager, is of course going to say nice things, but even he went above and said, dude, that was electric. That borderline dominant. He's way ahead of schedule. Ben Verlander of Fox, he's already flashing Cy Young stuff in short burst. Real stuff. MLB StatCast, which expected, and this is MLB StatCast, they do a lot of number crunching. They expected 95 to 96 miles per hour, but he sat at anywhere from 98 to 100 already on his fastball, showing strong pace and durability. And so, again, the casual in me goes, dude, 1 inning, he's dominant, he's throwing 100 miles an hour, let's let him close. Let's let him be the 9th inning samurai. Let's bring even more of the show.
Do it! Just do it!
To baseball like he did versus Trout in the World Baseball Classic. And then also consider that the Dodgers relievers are not doing good. This was a team that was hyped up to be a very good relief squad when they added both Scott and Yates in the offseason. It has not gone well. There's been injuries. There's been problems. They're like 18th or 19th in ERA. Even the relief pitching could use help in a defending champ Los Angeles Dodgers. But when you look at risk-reward, everyone and everything is telling me that it's not going to happen as much as I wanted to. There's the appeal, of course, of bringing him in the 9th inning and having him come out to like some sort of music like they do with Diaz or Rivera back in the day. And he would also be able to, in my opinion, help save his arm. Relief pitching is a lot less pitching usually, instead of 28, 30, 35 that you can get as a starter. Usually you're held like 15 or 20 as a relief pitcher. But they said the medical risk, there's a couple things in putting him in relief. First of all, you don't get to warm up and control your warm up like a starter. You get to kind of ease yourself into it when you're coming back from an injury. It's always important to kind of ease your way back as you warm up. You're able to do that as a starter, not as a reliever. Those are unpredictable warm-ups and is firmly discouraged by the team doctors as the $700 million man is on his 2nd Tommy John. Again, the Ohtani rule also says you have to bypass the DH issue. If you had him come into relief, he couldn't stay in DH like he could as a starter, so that's a problem. Dave Roberts has clearly stated we're protecting his long-term health. This isn't about saves. And even John Smoltz, famous pitcher, relief pitcher for the Braves, said using him in high-leverage adrenaline situations off a surgically repaired elbow is just a bad idea. And the plan going forward is that they're not going to do it. They're going to continue to just use him in 1 inning once a week and kind of slowly build him up to hopefully make him a starter next year in 2026. But I still want to argue, man. I still want to be like, come on, man, the playoffs. At least the playoffs. If you make it back to the playoffs as the defending champs with a struggling relief pitching, if that continues at the end of the year, can we at least have it then? Can we have Shohei come in and do, again, with the music, like Rivera, Enter Sandman? Remember that? God, New York, that was the coolest thing in almost all of sports when Rivera was shutting everybody down in the 9th inning for the Yankees, and you heard this. Man, you knew you were dead. Now I have to be careful. Of course, Metallica doesn't like having their music played.
That's right. Metallica is behind you, dudes, 1,000%.
Let me just go ahead and fade that out. But when you heard that music, back when Rivera was doing his thing and the Yankees were the dynasty that they were, man, that was trouble, man. You knew you were done. Same thing now with the Mets and Diaz. I'm not as huge a fan as this one, the Narco. It does bring into his heritage, so I think that's great. And that's something I would want to do with Shohei. One of the problems is with Japanese music, as I searched, I was like, let's get WWE. You tie in the heritage. Japanese music is kind of, no offense to the Japanese. Your music is not my style. Like Enter Sandman for Rivera, like even Diaz for the Mets. You need something catchy. You need something when he comes out to kind of signal that, dude, this is the end of your life. This is the end for your last 3 hitters. We're bringing in our strong closer. Your ass is done. I've seen kind of stuff. This is an idea I found. It's like a hip-hop Japan one. You got to see what I'm saying? You need some need some aggression. If we're able to bring Shohei ever in relief, you need something. I want a song like this. Kind of a hip-hop kind of Shohei coming out of the mound, out of the bullpen. You're that hitter, all the pressure's on you in the world, and you're just looking at him come out. The Japanese Babe Ruth. Oh, crap. Here comes Show. We're done. We're done. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to hear. I think this is actually close. I don't know if this has to be the exact one, but if you're going to do it, you're going to give him a walkout song, give him something like this. Something tough. Shohei. Ohtani. You're dead. Kind of vibing. All right, I got to run. We will talk next week about what happened in the NBA draft. We will see if the Thunder are able to do what they should do, which is bring back Giannis Antetokounmpo. Don't forget, as always, like and subscribe. If you went through this whole thing, I'd really appreciate it. Got to go. Talk to you next week.